I did a lot of weird things as a kid, things I've told no one. Around 10, 28 now, puberty hit me hard. I discovered masturbation and porn and didn't really have any guidance as to what was normal. The anime porn games were all I had to guide me, and we all know how perverted those can be. I don't know exactly when or why, but my young horny ass decided it would feel good to piss myself while everyone slept, so I'd sneak outside in just my boxers and pee. Then I started to look it up online, specifically women peeing in panties. I love see women in the panties to this day. I've gotten over the pissing, for the most part anyways. Fast forward a little, I remember thinking about how it would feel to be a woman. I had 2 younger sisters, but they would be too small, so I did a panty raid on my mom. I would jerk off and cum in them, then stuff them under my bed. One time my friend was over and I decided to show him me wearing my mom's thong. He laughed because my balls hung out to the side. Me and my friends did weird things. We would circle jerk, but I could never finish. Once I tried touching my friend, but he wasn't for it. Another time we went skinny dipping. A friend dunked my head and dry humped my bottom. Later the same one jerked me off. A little older, my friends and my sisters would play truth or dare. Not a whole lot happened looking back as an adult. A lot of flashing and dry humping. I used to dry hump my sister. She was 8 and I was 11. My dad remarried and I had 2 new step siblings. One 6, the other was 8. The 6-year would always try to kiss me. I let it happen after a while, denying her. Then it got worse. My step bro moved into the same room as me. At first we were fine, but then one day on a vacation we were hiding for hide and go seek and he sucked my dick. When we got home he wanted to do more stuff. I told him no, it's wrong and to go away. We did stuff on and off until I was 16. My stepmom knew something was up with us and we fought a lot. I went to live with my mom. We never did anything besides groping and mouth stuff. He was apparently doing something similar with his sister when he went to his dad's. He got caught and told them about me. I was 16, he was 13. I can say all this because I was charged and convicted of felonious sexual assault. After 2 years of court, I plead guilty and am now on the registry for life. My stepbrother was similarly charged but got off with a conviction that would disappear. From 19 to 25 I was in and out of jail, homeless and abusing all sorts of drugs. I hated myself and did all I can to kill myself without actually trying to kill myself. Today I'm sober and have a family, an instant one, but it's the most I've had in a long time. I grew out of the panty wear, piss and the gay stuff. I don't see little kids as sexy or anything like that. My GF has a son who I love like my own. And we hope to have our own kid one day. Life is better, yet the past still drags at me some days. I only see my mom and occasionally talk the nanny. I haven't seen my sisters in over 10 years and I miss them very much. I live a life of what ifs in my head. I deserve to get punished. I never physically hurt my stepbrother, but mentally he must have suffered. I led him to make the wrong choices because of my selfish need for pleasure. I don't know what I'm looking for by posting this, but it felt good to get it out.
Sabotage my friend's fishing outing because I would be bored. Years ago, when I was a child, I went away with one of my school friends for a weekend, and on one of those days he wanted to go fishing all day. The weather was terrible, and I hated fishing, so much I didn't know what I would do all day sat in the rain. My friend had some bait, which he got for trip especially. He had to keep it in a mini fridge that was kept in the car and plugged into a 12V outlet. I noticed that the fridge had a switch which said cool/hot. I flipped that switch to hot. He found the bait stinking the day after and seriously upset, and we didn't end up going fishing. I have thought about this incident regularly for the last 20 years. I mostly feel bad, but occasionally it makes me chuckle. I know it makes me a bad friend, but I felt I really had to share it now.
When working as a server in a 5-star fine dining establishment, a customer once asked for a to-go box. He said he wanted to take the rest of his dinner home to his dog. He went on and on about his dog, said he felt bad that he'd been so busy, and wanted to take something special for her. I went to the back, sat my tray down and turned around to grab a box. When I had my head turned, the dishwasher, trying to be helpful, had dumped the contents of the plate into a big trash can that we dumped all the leftover food in. I didn't want the dog to be disappointed and figured the dog wouldn't care, so I picked the food items out of the trash and put it in a box. On his way out, I heard him say, This was so good, I think I'm going to eat it myself, so we need to stop and get the dog a cheeseburger on the way home.
I took 5 to 6 hour long breaks at my full-time job. So, after 3 years of sitting at home building up depression, I came to the conclusion that what I needed to make my head empty was to work full-time. I got a job as a cleaner at a factory, and having made the decision to work completely by myself, I was probably the most excited to go to work out of anyone in that building. I worked alone, and was allowed to decide in what order I did my tasks. I liked thinking about how I could do my tasks faster, more efficiently, and in a way that was just good enough. I am very fit, so once I had the muscle memory down, I could dust off the whole factory in under an hour, and work up a good sweat with it. I figured that if I just used a broom instead of pulling out the whole cleaning wagon as I was told, it'd not only be faster, but I could also reach the corners now. I figured out optimal routes for some tasks, and skipped tasks that felt unnecessary, and that saved a lot of time. After about a month, I managed to get done in less than 3 hours. The rest of the time, I'd sit on the toilet. I brought a book, some Japanese homework, a squeeze weight to exercise, and downloaded some anime before work each morning. There was also a very nice Croatian guy who let me use his office with coffee machine as an extra break room, because you're a hard-working guy and deserve an extra break. It was a big building, and everyone mostly just stayed with their own machine. So everyone just assumed I was in a different section. I actually did tell my boss about it, not the toilet part. There was being talked about me taking extra breaks, so I got ahead of them and went to my boss. I said, "Hey, I've been getting done with my tasks quicker recently, and doing an extra round here and there, or taking an extra break isn't very useful to you, of course. So how about I work a few hours less and get paid a little more, but less than I get now? You get the same amount of work for less money, and I get more free time." He refused and just wanted to give me more work. So I made up other tasks that I could do myself, and just didn't do them. No one noticed a thing after that, and I worked there for 6 months until I managed to find a house, for which I had to move. Not sure if I should feel guilty. They were the ones who severely overestimated the difficulty of the job, and I still don't see the problem with the deal I tried to make with my boss.
I scrubbed his toothbrush on random stuff around the bathroom. I was mentally and verbally abused by a narcissist for almost 8 years. He was an avid coke user that would randomly start fights with me, so he had an excuse to storm out and party/do drugs. He also constantly gaslit me while putting me down verbally. He didn't work and just collected rent from one of his rental properties, but always gave me shit for only making $20 something an hour in my mid-20s, as it wasn't enough. He would even get to the point of putting up a fight with me when I wore shoes not to his liking and refused to go out until I changed. The mental abuse happened so often that during that time I've mustered up enough hatred to go into the bathroom and scrub his toothbrush on random things such as the sink and toilet and whatever you can imagine scrubbing his toothbrush on within the proximity of the bathroom. I'm not going to lie, it felt so good to do it when I had so much trauma built up from his mental abuse. I have never confessed this to anyone but to my current, very healthy, loving, and supportive partner now.
I would steal my grandma's social security checks from age of 11 to 13. My father died when I was 11. I was just 1 month away from turning 12. My mother immediately went down the rabbit hole of drugs/and alcohol, so I didn't just lose one parent, I lost both. Our checks from my dad's death went to my grandma. She was always the most stable person I ever had. Shortly after my dad died, my grandma's husband of 10 years left her for his affair partner. This led to my grandma getting started on meth and heroin and a sick gambling addiction. In the beginning she did make sure all our needs were met. Then it just got worse and worse over like 6 months. I was the oldest of my 3 siblings, so 4 of us total. We eventually were living in the house with no water, no electricity, and no food. She sold our food stamps for her habits. So I eventually started going in her room and taking mostly all of her cash while she was sleeping. Or if she'd already bought drugs with the cash checks, I would take the drugs and sell them to local dope heads. At first I used this money by splitting it up between my brothers and sister to get vending machine snacks at school. Or I'd go to Walmart up the street and buy school clothes before school started. And I'd tell my grandma the clothes were donated. One Christmas she didn't get anything, but Christmas Eve she went to Dollar Tree for some notebooks. I left $80 for each of my little brothers in the notebook. They were like 5 and 7. But eventually around the age of 13 I started keeping more for myself than what I did previously and buying weed or alcohol or cigarettes. It was 2 months before my 14th birthday and me and all my siblings got put into DHS custody. We all have aged out now except for my youngest brother who is 16 now. My grandma and mother got clean just within the last 2 years. My grandma tells me about the bad friends she had that stole from her all the time, and that's why she couldn't get us food or school clothes or pay the bills. But I only started taking her money when I realized what she was doing with it. She also had at least 4 other dope heads living with us at any point in time when she started going down. It was the #1 dope house, so easily the blame could be on one of them. Is this something I should tell my grandma I was responsible for? Or just let it die with me?
Back in the day, we gave ourselves swirlies in the middle of the night. My sister and I were in between the ages of 3 to 5 years old when we did this. My sister and I used to wake up when everyone was asleep and help each other climb over the 2 baby gates our parents stacked on top of one another to keep us inside our room. We would sneak into the bathroom and let our hair hang into the toilet while we flushed it and then giggled for a couple of rounds. Then we would go back to bed. Our parents didn't know we did this and were really shocked when we told them about it. I still don't know why we did this or when it stopped, but I remember it happening a couple of times. It's just so silly.